Hi technicians, it's Jen from DraftLine, and today I'm here to give you a quick tutorial for our service centers that are billing. So when you become a billing service center on DraftLine, that means that your company charges for each of the faucets that you service. When that happens, we need to make sure that you are very, very aware that all of the billing for your service center comes directly from what we as technicians input into the mobile application. That's DraftLine. And all cleanings that you perform must be submitted through DraftLine. If they do not make their way into DraftLine, and when I say way, that's your line cleaning trips, we need to make sure that every single line cleaning you do is entered through DraftLine, because if they don't make it to us, we can't help you with it, and we also can't bill for it. So it's critical that we get the information in correctly. You must add new accounts, and you must make faucet changes, which are the brand changes for each of the lines, each of the taps, each of the faucets in DraftLine. And you have to also verify what is serviced. And this is what I'm going to walk you through today. This will be posted on YouTube, so you'll be able to see and refer back to it. But of course, as always, you're going to have the cloud support phone number. You will also have the email address. You can text, email, call all of your concerns to us. And if you have very large accounts, we'll walk through how we will help you enter that information. So after startup phase, I want you to remember, if the beer brands are no longer on tap, the faucet changes still need to be made. You need to take that beer brand off the faucet on DraftLine. So you just back it out and you input what the new one is. You cannot leave a brand in the system that is no longer there, because again, that will make its way to the billing reports. So the rest of this, aside from working on current day, let's discuss that. You do have to work on the current day, the day that is scheduled. If not, we have to change to when you are actually going to do that line cleaning. This is specifically because we want the cooler stickers to match what has happened within DraftLine. And if permanent route changes need to be made, that's fine. Please submit a route change form. If it's a temporary, what we call one-time route change just for that week, let us know. We'll change it for that cycle only. So we've got a lot of things to cover. Let's dive in, and we'll talk about entering brands, verifying checklists, and also setting statuses. Every trip, we want it in a status at the end of the day. So at the startup meeting that we will do together, you will have your startup paperwork. This will include your email address and password to get you into DraftLine. And for that, you will take that sheet, you will go to either the App Store, which is for Apple devices, and download DraftLine Smart System, or you will go to the Google Play Store and download DraftLine Smart System mobile application. It's a free application, but you have to be able to get into your Google Play or App Store account. I can't help you with that. You're in control of that. Once you do, search for the app and then download it. After you do that, this is where we're at. You're going to input the email address and password that we've assigned for you for your service center. And then once you download the app for the first time, it's going to ask, two pop-up bubbles are going to happen. And it's basically directions and location services and notifications. You're going to have to click allow on those. If you do not do it correctly the first time, you're going to have to delete the app or go further into the settings on your phone, which we'll cover later. So for this, I've input my email address and password for a Ghost account, and I will click login. Now, once I'm into my route, I lovingly call this the toilet paper roll, okay? So each line cleaning is, just think of it as a paper sheet. It's the same thing. We've just transposed it to a mobile application. And you can go back and forth by date, but you're only going to use this functionality to look at your routes. We're going to have to go in and move those dates for you. Sorry. So for today, we will use this screen. It is April 10th. I can't believe it. And we're going to click into our first line cleaning, and this is Baker's of Milford. So we'll click on this. Up at the top, you're going to see a Google generated photo. Underneath, you can get directions. And of course, I'm in Orlando. This account is actually in suburban Detroit. So it shows 971 miles away. That is just an indicator for you. But if you do see something that looks off, we might need to fix an address, and you can submit that through the notes later. Also, you can call if we've entered the phone number, and as well the date and time that the line cleaning is scheduled. As I have mentioned, you are not locked into doing things at these dates or these times, but we're going to ask you to work on the scheduled day and realize that the time is simply to order your route throughout the day, but we can fix all the time intervals if that's something that's important to you as well, to make it display as you would run the route. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can most certainly get that spruced up if it's not reflective of how you would like to see it. Underneath the date and time, you will see line cleaning, and there is a note under that. The cooler code is 2970. If we ever have a permanent note, say for instance the account has hydrostatic beer pumps or you need to call a phone number to get in, this is a great place to put it. And if you need us to input permanent notes on any of your line cleaning trips, just enter it in the notes section, which we'll get to, and say, can you please make a permanent note on this account? Do it all the time, and it pops up every single time. So it's very handy. Underneath this, you will also see the technician that is assigned to this trip. That's me in this instance. And that little icon, I call him the alien next to my name, that is reflective of the fact that I am the foreman on this job. So I am responsible for the checkout options. So if you ever don't see that, and you're the only technician, again, let us know. But you, on upload, everything has been vetted and you should be totally fine. So if you're on iOS, you're going to work from the bottom of the screen, left to right. If you're on Android, top of the screen, left to right. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the tasks button. Now, as line cleaners, we always want to maximize all of the service time that we can. So in order to do that, that means we have to check in when we arrive to the location prior to taking all of our equipment off of our vehicle or our bike, however it may be. So the bottom right corner, you see this green button with the circle, the arrow. We're going to click that. That is going to turn blue, and that is going to start the timer ticking for our trip. So check-in and check-out review. You're going to check in when you get there, before you unload everything from your vehicle. You're going to check out after you leave, after you've loaded everything back up to move to your next stop. Early days, we're going to work on this to make sure it gets right. As we move on, we'll be able to trigger real-time reports to our customers that show on checkout how long we were there. We never ever want to see a 60-second check-in and checkout time. We need to make sure that that service time is maximized always, unless you have a no work performed trip, which we'll cover in a minute. So we're checked in. Up the top left, safety first guidelines. Always gloves and goggles, people, and please, if you can, pH paper. So I am going to go into my line cleaning checklist. That's this gray bubble. We'll click here. Up at the top, it's going to show that we have a glycol system. Click on the bar for the glycol system. First 4 steps, whatever process of line cleaning you're using, and we only have 2, static and recirculation. First 4 steps are always regular maintenance. Every single line cleaning, this should be checked. Now, based on whether you're using a recirculation pump, if you do, click on recirculation pump. And then every time we input check marks, we have to send them back to the server. So bottom right, we would click this green circle with the check mark. Now, 97% of the market uses the static method, okay? They don't use a recirculation pump. So up the top here, regular maintenance, and down here, static. Okay, that's how most of your line cleanings will be looking. So again, every time we input the check marks, we need to send them back to the server, clicking the green circle. That sends them back. That sends us back to the tasks page as well. Right here under the gray bubble with line, you will see the word partially. That means that you have checked 2 of those boxes. That's all we expect there. Sometimes you'll check the acid box if you're on your quarterly acid cycle. But just remember, that is a visual indicator just for you to let you know, hey, you've already gone through those screens, you don't have to go back. Same thing with the faucets. We're going to click on the orange bubble. Up at the top, we're going to say all the following are completed. And this is where you've disassembled, soaked the faucets, made sure you're putting them back together in good working order. At the bottom of the screen, this is where it gets a little more complicated. Our numbering, and this system has 32 faucets total. our numbering starts over on a per tower basis. Here on this page, what I want you to remember is we're always going and doing our survey from left to right. Now, right now, because this is new, you're not going to see any brands in this section. As the brands start to populate on the mobile application and those get accepted into DraftLine, you're going to see names of beer brands start popping up here. But on this page for you, those are always going to be rotating. So I want you to go bartender view, left to right, and only check mark the faucet numbers that you have done. So say faucets 1, 2, 3, and 4 on my left, bartender view, left to right. Say I service those, I will send those back as verified. And we'll talk more about this in the startup meeting as well. But we have to make sure that you understand on this particular page, the only thing you are doing is check marking faucets that you have serviced. The brands don't matter. And of course, in this example, there are no brands yet. You will be populating those. So again, these are the ones you serviced. Every time you put a check mark in, that is you verifying that you serviced that part of the beer system. And every time you put a check mark in, you have to send that back to the server. That's the green circle at the bottom right. I'm going to click that. And that's going to send me again back to my tasks page. Sorry about that. Now, notes. I'm going to click on the notes section. So right here, we use the notes very heavily in DraftLine. I don't like to see a lot of brand changes through here. This is more service notes. If you get refused for service, if we have an issue with scheduling that you'd like to see, that's very simple, we can put this through here. Anything complicated with lots of information, we want to push that through the support desk, and you will have that text, phone number, email address as well. So for right here, let's say that we got turned away from an account, for example, because they were too busy for lunch. We're going to put a note in. And this really could be anything. No gas, no beer, nobody home, too busy. We want to document that because this all goes back to our real-time compliance reports with our breweries, our distributors, anybody we're representing, also our managers. Any note that is input in this section will make its way into the hands of a customer. Keep that in mind once we auto-trigger those real-time reports. So we have to keep it sweet. So to the right, again, we put something in, we have to send it. In this instance, when it's letters, it's the paper airplane. Also, photos. We're going to take a photo here. We're going to use this button, use photo, and again, blue paper airplane. And that's going to send that photo. When the photo is successful, you will get a pop-up that says photo uploaded successfully. If you're in good signal, you're not going to have any issues. You can also choose a photo from your camera roll. So just keep that in mind, that that is an option. If you're in a cooler or something like that, coolers are Faraday cages, no wavelengths will move through it, so you've got to sometimes add from your camera roll, which is totally acceptable. Now, we are going to move on to the system portion. For the system portion, this is the most complicated part of what you will be doing on DraftLine. Okay? And this is, again, where we're taking a survey of the beer system. Critically important that we have up-to-date information at every single service. Now, when you have large systems like this on startup, we want to help you move through the process. And I'm going to show you what the process is here in a second. But something I want you to keep in mind. Large accounts during the startup phase will help enter the brands consisting of 20 taps and over. And if you're really in a tight spot, we will help you. But I want you to make your best effort at getting the information in on your own. But anything 20 and over, you can send to us. Ideally, you get that information to us by writing a list of what is on tap, or you send in a beer menu for us to reference. If the photos are sent, they must be very clear and close to the tap so we can read the handle. If the handles don't have good tap markers or they're twisted and we can't read it, it causes a lot of back and forth and it's really more irritating for you. So please, on those photos, you also have to indicate what brands that you actually serviced, because that helps us override your check marks on the other page. It usually takes in the startup phase, at least 24 hours only. This is for the startup phase only. After the first cycle, changes will need to be made from the mobile application. As always, there are exceptions to the rules on monster draft beer systems, but please, no pictures of 4 faucet accounts. You guys have to do those, and gals, on your own, and I know you all are well capable of it, so we'll work that out, but just keep it in mind, and don't send me photos with 1 tap change, because then I'll have to call and say we can't do that anymore. So also, keep in mind that our billing is affected by this. So if something isn't in this system anymore, a brand is no longer there, you have to take it off and back it out and put the new one in, or you put open. So let me show you how we go through a faucet change. So first, on tower number 1, I would be looking bartender view, working from my left, clicking and sliding across on this tower. I'll click on the pencil, and in here, I'm gonna put Miller. This will bring up the drop-down menu that is pre-populated based on information that your service center has given us to preload your drop-down options. So for this one, I'll just click on Miller Lite, click Next, and then we have to put a distributor. For example, I'm going to put one that I already know is in here because this is a test account. So it's Miller Lite distributed by Monarch. I will click OK. That is off and running. And I've gotten my pop-up, request send successful. Now, you're not going to see a pop-up immediately. In the early days, a person goes through, vets all that information, so that causes a delay. Down the road, you guys will see these pop up faster and faster because we have less and less information that we have to filter through. Now, on faucet number 2, so say this is the second one, and I'm now working bartender view left to right, moving to my right. On this one, let's just say it's an empty faucet, so there's nothing there except a tap. We're going to say open. We'll click Next, and then we're not going to put any distributor in there because there is no distributor because there's no beer on that. But the open signifies to us, especially in the startup phase, that there actually is a faucet there that could pour beer, so it helps us to order everything, so we want to do that. So again, I'm going to click OK. That's going to send off to the dashboard. The next time you go out, you're going to see all these things start to pop up in here. Now, faucet number 3. Say this is a wacky beer brand, and I'm going to say Dinosaur. And you've never seen it before. We don't have it in the pop-up menu, but it's some craft brand that has come into the market, and we also don't know the distributor. I'm going to click Next. If we do not know the distributor, we're going to mark that as independent. Okay, so you still put the name in if you can figure out what it is from the tap handle or the beer menu, and then you're going to put independent if you don't know the distributor. Totally acceptable. So there's many things that have to happen on this faucet survey page. All of your brands that you're cleaning for, you should know. Those, as we all know, are going to change from time to time. Your major competitors, those are going to be easy to put in. And let me show you here, Budweiser. Again, we'll click there and we'll say Anheuser-Busch. So that is similar to how it's going to look, but Anheuser-Busch, say, is a distributor, not necessarily the brewery here. So just keep in mind that good information in, good information out. If a brand is no longer there when it pops up the next time, you've got to literally go in here and back it out. You just back it out and you put in the new one. And let's say, for instance, it's Yuengling. We'll say again Monarch, and we'll click OK. And that will be off and running. So this is something that needs to be updated every single time. It's your brands and your competitors' brands. Okay, so you're tracking everything. You're going to hate me for 2 weeks, but I promise it's going to get a lot easier really fast. Now, once that information is all entered, the only thing we need to do on the expenses tab is click on the pencil, and we're going to input the name of the person signing. At the very bottom of the screen, the person signs, who is the customer. We don't want you signing. We want you to try and get verification by the customer. And up at the top right, we will click Done. That will again transfer back to the server, save in a little beautiful time capsule that we'll have forever, and you're off and running. So we've worked all the way through left to right. We're now going to go back to the tasks page. Now, this is not complicated, but say we have finished our service and we're going to check out. I want to talk about these statuses, and I want to talk about how they affect billing. If a trip is not put into the completed status, that does not go to our billing reports. Meaning, if a trip is open, you didn't check in, you didn't touch it at all, that's not going to our billing reports. If a trip is put into partially completed, which no line cleaning should ever be partially completed, that's for service and installation only, it does not go to the billing reports. If a line cleaning is put into no work performed, again, we don't get credit for that. It does not go to the billing reports. So the moral of the story here is, if you want your company to be able to bill for the lines that you cleaned at any given service, it must be in the completed status. Anything other than completed is no good for us. It does not count, because that signifies that nothing happened there. Now, I want to go back and show you about no work performed. No work performed, and I'm going to rush through one of these line cleanings to show you this example, is this status. You will see this here, update, is a black circle with 3 dots. No work performed is when you get turned away. You showed up to do your job, but for whatever reason, they turned you away from that service. Now, the expectation is that you'll be able to go back in and complete that later in the day. That's what we want to see. So we can change the statuses on our trips and check back in, and then change this to completed. But no work performed is 5 to 7% of trips at any given location. So again, we'll change that to completed, and you'll see it update here on the screen. Now these trips, and these are examples, so they look a little bit goofy, but the Outpost, Big Buck Brewery, and Luma here at the bottom of the screen, we don't want to see any trips in the open status at the end of the day, because that means you didn't get to those. And so what we do is, even if you didn't get to them, we're still going to mark them as no work performed. And that is because it helps us filter through. Open trips are really bad in DraftLine, because it means that we have missed out on the line cleaning, and it means also that we need to figure out what's going on, probably reschedule. So at the end of your day, before you are finished, I need you to go through and check in and out of each of your trips. If they are not completed, we're going to push them to no work performed. And this is how your day should look at the end of your day. So, or your route, I should say, at the end of your day. So again, no work performed. Now, I don't want to have a lot of these no work performed trips all the time. Obviously, I want to be able to make sure that we get to all of our accounts, but I recognize in the early days that we're going to have some issues and some rerouting, and that's okay. That's to be expected. But no open trips like this one with no color coding at the end of the day. I want to see everything completed or pushed into no work performed status. All the brands, as I've said, have to be updated. And notes, input, for examples, why there was no work performed when you did show. And if you cleaned at an account, but were requested by the customer, hey, don't clean these certain brands, we need a note, or else that's going to mess up our billing reports as well. Also, check in when you arrive, check out when you leave, and keep that very much make that a new habit out, because the GPS is more accurate and it will be seen by customers, and we have to make sure that that is all up to date at all times. Don't log in as another technician. Each technician should have their own login. There's a lot of reasons why we like that. If you need to cover, we'll move the trips from the first technician to your profile, and you can tell support that. Just let us know. And don't wait till the end of the week to send in your notes or photos. You have to do it by day, so everything is billed properly. Never ever work outside of a calendar week, ever, on DraftLine, especially because you're a billing service center. That's going to mess us up. And if you do that, we have a report for it. I will find you, and I will tell you, you better not do that anymore, because that messes up our billing again. Also, I forgot to show you how to add faucets to a tower. I'm going to go to the system page here. This is like the little jack. Tower number 1, this will be an example. On the tower bar, you scroll across with your finger. You just slide across, you hit the plus sign. And again, this is going to add a tower to the far right. This is a great function for 1, 2, maybe 3 faucets. if we don't have it on the initial startup phase. Not so good if you have, 4, 5 more, 10. That is when you contact support. But for instance, it works exactly like a faucet change. Okay, so it's the same exact thing. You click next. Okay, it sends it back to the dashboard. You're not going to see that faucet number 4 until your next date of service, because somebody has to save that to the beer system. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We've gotten it, but you won't see it until the next time. If any of your system information on this page is messed up when you go in, because we're just going based off of the best information we all had at the time when we did the upload, you need to text us right away when you get to the account. Okay, text us, tell us, hey, I'm at Luma on Park. This is not looking correct. They actually have, say, 7 faucets per tower, and then we can go in and update that really quickly, and we have you pull down on the screen with your finger, it updates and it pops up for you really quickly. So keep that in mind. You're going to check in when you get there, and it's really good if you can look at the system information and verify that's correct, because we can fix it when you're there on site, and then you can pop the brands in really quickly. And keep in mind, those brands are going to save for the next time when you see everything. Remember to set each order into the checkout status after you check out. If you clean and the account is not changed to completed, again, it's not going to go to your billing reports. And don't go in and clean something and not set the status. We saw that recently for the first time in all these years in business, where technicians were going in, doing the cleanings, and then not completing the accounts. Well, we were missing out on lots of dollars. So don't do that. Make sure you set that status to completed. And also make sure on this tasks page that you check mark all the brands that you have cleaned. And for an example, you'll see the Stella here. You want to make sure that you are check marking the faucets left to right bartender view by number, the ones that you actually serviced, and sending that back. And of course, you got to click that top button there, and that will pop you back to your tasks page. So technicians, it's going to be an adventure in DraftLines together, but we've got all the resources together for you to make sure that you can be successful. Make sure you get all those trips into the completed status. We're here to help you. And if you need anything while you're on the road on Monday when you start, let us know and we'll get that information to you. I thank you so much for your attention today, and all the best. Take care.